And away we go. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome, one and all, to Coffee Talk. It is time once again for Coffee Talk Live, where we will be having some discussion about what is going on in the world today, taking a look at some clips from the news, and having some open dialogue with those of you who are able to join us for the live portion, which takes place Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, and that is at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University. So check those channels out. If you're listening somewhere else, you can also find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Coffee Talk Chat, which I can no longer stream to because now they want me to buy a service and I'm not going to do it. It's bad enough I'm paying for the restream. There's Monkey living up to his namesake because he's all over the place. Held up a kitten for those of you who can't see. And of course, this is the one that was trapped in the car engine when they brought him to me. You can find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta, Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or Monday through Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Friday at noon as we get ready to jump off. And I'll go ahead and read through as many of the comments as is plausible. For the benefit of those of you who are listening and not able to see, I'll say hello to some people here real quick. I see Kimberly has joined us today, as well as Helter, Dragon, Sean is here, Camilla, Raccoon, popping in so far to say hello. I'm being joined today by Monkey, Daniel, and Granny Smith is laying on the floor behind me, keeping me company today as we get ready to jump off and take a look at what's going on in the world. Our insane world that we live in. And I'll keep it up as long as I can. As you well know, I've been getting a lot of heat from ScrewTube again. I see Cyberjack Sr. is here, as well as Jane. And Jane wants to know if I got the package for the kitties. Yes, Jane, I did. I had mentioned it a couple of days ago. And if you look down here, I'll let you all see real quick. There is Granny Smith sleeping with one of your fish. That fish was sent by Jane Spitfire there. And Granny decided it's hers. She will not let anybody touch it. So anyone else plays with it, she'll come flying into the room and run them off. But yeah, you see her there with her fish. So thank you, Jane. That actually worked out pretty well. Fluke Man is here, as well as Chillin' Dave and Monkey. And Rodney, who made a donation to the channel. Thank you, Rodney. He says, here's a couple of bucks towards the kitties. I hope you're getting some ad revenue considering they're running ads before I can view the stream. So do I. So do I. It ain't much, but I'll take whatever I can get. And thank you, Rodney, as we get ready to jump off here and take a look at what's going on in the world. I'm sure you're all aware of this, or sure it was coming. And this is an ABC News article. Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle resigns. Who didn't see that coming? Who didn't see that coming? She resigned, and that was after she said that she wouldn't. She refused, remember? Before the congressional hearing, refused to resign. I'm not going to resign. I'm not going to resign. Well, guess what? She resigned. She resigned after yesterday. And I see Jack has joined us, as well as H12. Thanks for coming in today. Yesterday's, excuse me, grilling session by Congress, where they pretend like they care. And it's just a way for them to vent and yell at people. A way for them to vent and yell at people. They bring people and put them in the hot seat and ask them questions. And people were like, you need to watch it. You need to watch it. And I'm like, why? I don't want to sit there, because remember that went on for 5 hours. And I figured it was going to last 6 hours or more. It was 5 hours, close enough. Okay. And that she would not answer any questions because technically she doesn't have to. She doesn't really have to, you know, she can respond, but she doesn't have to actually tell them anything. What am I going to subject myself to that for? And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. But now she's thrown in the towel. She took a nod from Biden, or, you know, maybe because Biden is resigning his commission, She feels like she's not going to be protected now. Maybe that's the problem. But the article reads, U.S. Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle, who came under scrutiny for the agency's failure to prevent the assassination attempt on former President Trump, has resigned. Cheadle has faced calls to step down since the shooting at the rally on July 13th, which left one attendee dead and 2 others critically injured. They're fine now, by the way, but they were injured pretty badly at the time. She announced her resignation Tuesday morning in an email to Secret Service employees, which was obtained by ABC News. The Secret Service solemn mission is to protect our nation's leaders and financial infrastructure. And this is a quote, financial infrastructure, that's an interesting point. On July 13th, we fell short on that mission, she writes. The scrutiny over last week has been intense and will continue to remain as our operational tempo increases. As your director, I take full responsibility for the security lapse. As a leader, it takes honor, courage, and incredible integrity to take full responsibility for an organization tasked with one of the most challenging jobs in public service. And that's a quote from Biden. Okay. Biden also says that he was grateful to Cheadle for her service and that the independent review into the shooting would continue. By the way, no one has seen Biden yet. No one has seen him. Just want to throw that out there. And Rodney says they want to hear what went on behind the shockingly bad security that led to the attempt on Trump's life. And, you know, what one takeaway from the interview process that went on yesterday that I thought was interesting was that AOC actually made a really good point, which was shocking because usually she sounds like she doesn't know what she's talking about. And her question, of course, was if the range of an AR-15 style rifle is 500 to 600 yards, which is about right, why was your parameter less than 150 yards in an open area? And I was like, damn, that's not a bad question, AOC. Congratulations. Someone must have wrote that up for her. And Chillin' Dave says, so what's she going to do now, Wally World Security? I don't think anybody would hire her in that field at this point. You were forced to resign from the highest possible security office in the United States. And she was coerced into resignation. I really don't see that anybody would hire her in that field anymore. She probably doesn't need the money at this point. And I'm sure she'll be paid well through like a book deal or something like that to keep her mouth shut about what really happened. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas thanked Cheadle for her lifelong devotion to our country and to potato chips, and for leading the Secret Service with skill, honor, integrity, and tireless dedication. She's deeply respected by the men and women of the agency and by her fellow leaders in the Department of Homeland Security, Mayorkas said in a statement. I'm proud to have worked with Director Cheadle, and we're all grateful for her service. I don't actually know what Mayorkas sounds like, but that's how I envision it in my mind. It goes on to remind you that Secret Service Deputy Director Ronald Rowe has been named as acting director. Rowe is a 24-year veteran of the U.S. Secret Service. That doesn't mean he did anything. What does Rowe do? I don't know who Rowe is. I don't know who Rowe is, really. But again, I mean, she was in the Secret Service. I think she entered the Secret Service in 1995? Is that correct? She didn't really do anything. She wasn't a field agent. She was a desk jockey for the most part, correct? And then she left, and then she worked for Frito-Lay, and then Biden brought her back because she's a diversity hire. They wanted to bring her back as a diversity, because that's what the Biden administration does. That's what the Biden administration does, is they hire people. Everyone they've hired, just about. Everyone they've hired, just about, has been a DEI hire. All these guys in dresses and lipstick and all of these women who aren't qualified. Jill and Dave says school bus monitor. Maybe. And H12 says, does anybody just get plain fired anymore? Well, they they I was reading ahead in the comments. They give you the option to resign, and the big lie of resignation is that you can still get a job somewhere else, and it's not going to work. So you may as well let them fire you. You may as well. And Jane says, my falsetto voice of Mr. Cheadle. No, well, that's the Peter Brady voice. That's the I'm going through puberty voice, and it keeps changing. That's that voice. I can do a higher voice. I could have done Mr. Cheetah like this. That would have worked. So the Mickey Mouse voice. Oh, hi. I'm the director. Unbelievable. Monkey says at this point in time, we're in the age of incompetency, like for her to mess up this bad and for any other spot. And Jane says it's not DEI, just like affirmative action years ago. Pretty much, that's what it is including people based on some other measurement rather than merit or experience. So you didn't earn it. I mean, if somebody has a lot of experience, I can respect that. If somebody earned it, I can respect that. But if it's like, yeah, this guy never gets it, it's like the last kid to get picked on the team in elementary school. You know how there's always that one or two kids that's always left over, and someone takes them because they have no choice. They gotta take them. And the coach the next time around says, hey, you know how Eric is always standing on the wall? Call him first this time as a favor to me. That's DEI. Okay, to make Eric feel good, like he's useful, instead of Eric getting better at it or finding something else to do that he is good at. You know what I mean? Oh, and D-Lo is here. He says he'll watch the replay later. Yeah, it'll be there, hopefully. Muggy suggests that all the DEI folks are incompetent the moment they have to actually do the job rather than be a pony show. And Raccoon says Kamala Harris is the poster child for DEI. And D-Lo says thumbs up, everybody. Please do. Rodney suggests that he's been hearing large businesses are ditching DEI. I've been hearing that too. I've been seeing articles on it. It's causing them a lot of problems. Further investigations reveal that they're just renaming it, usually to Bridge. Unbelievable. But there you are. There you are, ladies and gentlemen. As we roll around here, another thing that I've been hearing, and I was going to look for an article about it, but I forgot. It's the truth. I forgot to look it up. Is that it's been suggested now that those women, do you remember I showed that one female Secret Service agent, and the problem she was having was she was trying to holster her weapon into her badge. And all these women are running around confused and they don't know what to do. And that's been spotlighted a great deal after all that's happened. Rumor has it that they are not even Secret Service agents, that they were actually investigators, desk jockeys from Department of Homeland Security that were borrowed for the event and put out there as if they were secret agents or Secret Service agents, I should say. I'm going to look for an article on it. I just got to remember. I have to remember to do it. But that unbelievable. And Jane says Cheadle should have been super organized and covered all the stuff in her job description, reviewed policies and procedures. And Tuck has joined us. Glad you could make it. Thanks for joining us here today, Tuck. As we move around here. But that's what's been floated, is that they were borrowed. And that's why you didn't see any at the RNC. And that also explains why they looked like they were in such terrible physical condition. If they sit behind a desk all day plugging away at a computer, It also explains why she couldn't manage her sidearm. Daily Mail article. The cunning ploy devious Democrats used to sabotage Biden's campaign. Oh, they had a ploy. And apparently, Daily Mail has figured it out. Let's see what they have to say. The Democrat Party plot to get Joe Biden to drop out has been long in the works, a Biden insider claims. The plan came to fruition on Sunday when the 81-year-old president dramatically announced the end of his campaign before endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris. And we haven't seen him since. All we've seen is like posts on X. So nobody knows if he's dead or alive. And we kicked that idea around a little bit yesterday, although he is supposed to resurface tomorrow and give a statement, a press conference explaining his decision. But we'll see how that goes. However, a source close to Biden's family is saying that the party put together a palace coup over the course of recent weeks, with the president fighting it until he was threatened with being forced out. The insider says that the disastrous debate against Trump on June 27th, the earliest presidential debate in history, was part of the strategy, despite being publicly requested by Biden on social media. That debate was a setup to convince Democrats that he couldn't run for president, the source told the New York Post. I was going to suggest all they really had to do was let him talk, and that would be enough to just shut him down. Biden was often seen on split screen with his mouth agape and a blank stare during the showdown against Trump last month, immediately sending Democrats into a freak out. Though publicly, most of the faces on the left stayed behind Biden. In the shadows, party power brokers were threatening to invoke the 25th Amendment. They're still threatening that. That came down the pipe today in Congress, to invoke the 25th Amendment. And you would ask yourself, well, what would be the point of doing that now? He's already said he's not going to run. Well, if he jumps out now, if they can force him out now, Kamala becomes the president pro temp. She fills in. She becomes the steward, as it were, until the election. And that would help her. Section 4 of the amendment allows for removal of a president who is deemed incapacitated by any kind of illness, injury, or mental impairment. One of the few trusted by Biden who believed he was being pushed out, troubled son Hunter, who became a gatekeeper for his father after the debate. Well, Hunter has to watch out for him, because if he doesn't, Hunter is going to get buried. He's up to his eyeballs in lawsuits, legitimate ones, not like what they did with Trump. Hunter felt he was being set up, and he was very concerned about his father. These people, these officials, were not on Joe's side, the source claimed, and they did hold back the funding. And that caused problems. And the funding was released as soon as he made that statement that he was going to resign on Sunday, and they got like a historic big 24-hour donation from various very wealthy sources. As we continue on here, Cyberjack suggests that Biden had a stroke. And Rodney says, if Kamala becomes the president in the meantime, we'll likely all get dragged into a war. Oh, God. And Cyberjack says his facial expressions are dramatically different now. It could be CGI. We don't know if it's actually him yet, because it's been suggested also. I saw an article on it. I don't have it pulled up, but I saw an article on it that suggested that the voice is not accurate, because there was an audio of him, but that was released just recently, and that it doesn't match up correctly. That it could be AI generated audio. So there we are. Fluke Man says, as anyone from the UK, the new prime minister said he'll probably take senior citizen state pensions to fund other projects and increase inheritance tax. Who would have thought Labour would consider this? Well, it all depends on how well they're paid off. How many palms have been greased? How many palms have been greased So there we are. Chillin says if he starts making sense, it's CGI. And Rodney said perhaps Biden's handlers are no longer giving him mental acuity medication. Who knows? But yeah, it's not over until it's over. It's not over until it's over. And yeah, the warden also says they're saying Biden possibly had a stroke. We'll see. We'll see. We will see. It remains to be seen whether or not they still try to shoehorn Michelle into this, as if people haven't learned by now that nothing with these people has worked. Nothing. The Obama years were not that good. The Biden presidency has not been that good. It really hasn't. Why would we want to keep riding this ticket? Plus, they've been lying for years. I talked about it quite a bit yesterday. Biden has not been the same and had started showing signs of unusual behavior, shall we say, since his second brain surgery in 1988, which means that they've really been covering for him for 36 years, that he should have resigned as senator. Go home, hang it up. Oh, Legends is here. He says, before I head to work, I wanted to say, love the hobby channel. Oh, thank you, Legends. Much appreciated. That's the only one they don't torture. That's where I'll end up if they throw me out of doing this. And Camilla suggests that Biden dropped out of the race on National Ice Cream Day. Was it? I don't know when a National Ice Cream Day is, so you got me, unless that's just sarcasm. But it's all over, Joe. Yeah, it's all, or is it? Because if Kamala gets elected, if she finds her way into the White House, I mean, she and Jane says, not Michelle Obama. She does not want to do this at all. I trust you're being sarcastic there, because just because she says it doesn't mean it's true. That's part of the ploy, because then she can act like, and I've referenced the Ides of March, Caesar from Shakespeare's writings, where he's out in the town square and he's like, not I cannot wear the crown. And people are begging him to take the laurel and be Caesar. And he's like, no, not me. But he really wants the job, but he wants people to think he doesn't, because then it makes him look humble. Oh no, Warden, I can't read that. I get in enough trouble. Oh no. And Fluke Man suggests maybe Biden was easier to control after surgery. But yeah, that's really kind of my point, is that if you listen to people who talk about, who have worked with Biden, all the weird stuff, the hair smelling, the touching people, weird phrasing, all started after the brain surgeries. And yeah, they kept him in because he's just a good puppet. There's a lot of strings on him. And Jane wants to know who I think Karras will get as her vice president. I'm thinking Newsom. I hope she picks Newsom, because everybody hates that guy. But once again, it's once again, he still gets elected, doesn't he? These people still get elected. AOC still gets elected. No one even runs against her. Last time, she didn't even have an opponent when she ran for her office. She has won this time, and they already don't like him because he's from Wall Street. Half the time, these people aren't even challenged. And Jericho says it's like the Madagascar scene. Oh, but who could ever bear the crown? Yeah. Exactly. You act like you don't want it, because there's always that adage that the person who deserves it the most is the one who doesn't want to do the job, but does it out of necessity. And you got to take a look at the kind of people you're dealing with. they could prop her up in that position. Yeah, keep acting like you don't want it, Michelle, and we'll let you know if we need you. And then pretends to be all humble. Oh, if they really need me and I really don't want to do it. And it's like, oh God, give me a break. And people are dumb enough to fall for it. People will fall for it and they'll vote for her. And it's like things were so great under Obama. And all people says, I thought gruesome Newsom was being preserved for 2028 run. Well, he could jump off really good from vice president, wouldn't he? If they put him in there. But he's been floated. He's been floated a few times, not down the toilet, but as a presidential nominee or a vice presidential nominee. They've thrown his name out a few times. That's why he showed up for the debate with the presidential debate in the first place. Newsom was there. And I'm like, ugh, no. Look at California and tell me he's a good choice. That's Life is Here. Glad you could make it. And Jane thinks that Newsom is a hottie. Is he? Somebody thought so. And Fluke Man says, wasn't AOC challenged? Were the oppositions paid off or threatened? Last cycle, I don't think she had a running mate. Or not a running mate, but an opposition. The cycle before that she did, it was one person, and they had a lot of real ugly pissing matches. Then there was nobody. And I am I wrong? Somebody can look it up, I'm sure. And this time it's a guy, but he's a banker. And so he's automatically bad. He's automatically evil because he's a banker. And Jane says they know that Hillary Clinton doesn't want it. Well, ask her and she'll tell you, because she's never told a lie in her life. You remember that? I don't think I've ever told a lie. I don't think I've ever told a lie in my entire life. She said that in that interview. I'm sure a lot of people spit their milk that day. Unbelievable. I've never told a lie. Oh my God. This is now this I thought was interesting, and this ties in with some of what you guys were saying. Indy 100. Global press deletes X account after reporting Biden is in a hospice. And I don't know, this article doesn't actually say Global X is the one that took this account down. I'll read you this through if you haven't seen this. It was on X and then disappeared, and then the entire Global X account is gone. All right. A news corporation has abruptly deleted its X account after publishing a controversial report on Biden's health. Global Press tweeted in the early hours of Tuesday that a verified source had informed its team that the 81-year-old was currently in hospice and was unlikely to survive through tonight. The highly distressing announcement was met with shock on social media as users scrambled to discover the truth about the president's well-being. The account for the news site Raw Alerts responded to Global Press's post saying it was false. There is no official confirmed source stating that Biden is in a hospice care. If this was actually happening, mainstream media and social media would be covering it immediately. That's not necessarily true, but we'll continue here. Global Press swiftly hit back at the criticism, writing, yes, like we said, there is no official source, but the source that told us Biden would drop out of the race Sunday, 2 days prior to that announcement, is the same source that informed us of this just now, and it has been corroborated with another source. In fact, if Biden makes another public appearance and we're wrong, we'll delete our account, but only if Raw Alerts agrees to delete theirs if they are wrong. And Raw Alerts agreed, but then Global News removed their entire account, or they believe they took it down. It's not confirmed actually whether Global News is the one that took the X account down or something else happened to it. So it's not known at this time. 100%. D-Lo says Newsom is a joke for California. We don't like him here. Yeah, he still gets in office though, doesn't he? Funny how that works. JJ says he thinks Candace Owen tried to run against AOC, but the district screwed her over on paperwork. I can imagine. And Jane says I do think a female president in the USA, she will have a hard time. She'll have a good time if she does the job right. that's that's my opinion of it. I don't care if it's a male or a female as long as they do the damn job. They never do the job. Dragon says an old saying comes to mind: if you can't blind the truth with brilliance, baffle them with BS. And that's exactly what's going on here. That's exactly what's going here. And Jane says he looked up other countries have had female state leaders or presidents, about 40 over the last 30 years, but the USA has not. But going back over it, though, I mean, how many of them actually did the job right, and how many of them caused more problems than they solved? Take a look at what happened with the female leadership that they had in India, and the troubles that came out of that. Take a look at oh God, what is her name? She was the Prime Minister of England, and the press blew her up, but she did not do a good job. I'm trying to think of her name. Somebody knows. Fluke Man says, like when CEO tells employees to quit to allow black people to take the jobs. When the people asked, why doesn't the CEO quit the job? It's because I can't quit. The company needs me. Yeah. Again, I don't mind if they do the job right, but will they, or is it just going to be, another instance of, oh, I was the first woman to do this, I was the first woman to do that? Well, who cares if you were a woman or not? Did you do the job? Are you doing the job? Are you doing the job? That's the question. Thank you, H12 reminds me it's Thatcher. I couldn't think of it. I remember her talking about that she couldn't sleep but 4 hours a night. That's all I remember. But yeah, she didn't do a good job if you really go back and look at the history. Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher. I mean, that's her big claim to fame, is that she was female. And that's just not enough. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. As we kick around here, we may as well talk about Kennedy. We may as well talk about Kennedy showing his true colors. His true colors being exposed here. And this is, who wrote this article? I think it's a Business Insider article. Let's see when it comes up. There we are. RFK wanted a White House job in exchange for endorsing Trump. Oh, I guess he just knows he doesn't have a chance, huh? I guess he just knows he doesn't have a chance. So he wants to back the winning horse and get into the White House any way that he can. You know, old snake charmer Kennedy here. That's what you might remember a few weeks back, those clips of him, quote unquote, handling snakes, because he's got like a little reality show going on Instagram or whatever where he Tuck says, I'm still looking for that 5-star all-female roofing company. There you go. Good luck with that. Snake Charmer Jr. Robert Kennedy Jr. mired in another scandal as he floated the idea of endorsing Trump's presidency in exchange for a future job at the White House. Sources told the Washington Post, according to the anonymous sources, Kennedy, the independent presidential candidate, hoped to manage a slate of health and medical issues. The conversations reportedly began just hours after would-be assassin targeted Trump on July 13th, but did not result in an agreement. One source who knows both men said that he contacted Kennedy on Saturday evening, and the two men spoke that night before eventually meeting face-to-face in Milwaukee. While in Milwaukee, Trump and Kennedy discussed potential cabinet jobs and other posts that don't require Senate confirmation. Kennedy raised the possibility of dropping his election and endorsing Trump, despite having publicly bashed him in the past. Members of the Trump team, however, were concerned that the arrangement could cause thorny legal and optics issues, not to mention Kennedy is a well-documented vaccine skeptic and some are worried his stance could cause problems for the campaign. Despite reportedly lobbying for a position related to health care, Kennedy promised to slash funding for federal agencies that regulate vaccines early in his campaign. He seems eager, however, to tackle the topic from within. Quote, "All I will say to you is I'm willing to talk to anybody from either political party who wants to talk about children's health and how to end the chronic disease epidemic," Kennedy said in an interview on Monday. He praised Trump. Remember, he's been dogging Trump for quite a while, but now he praises him for reaching out to him and lamented the fact that he had never heard from Democratic leadership. Yeah, you have. Your family's been putting you down for months. His family doesn't want him to run. Oh my gosh. There we go. There we go. But yeah, he's willing to throw his campaign away. Well, he knows he's not going to win anyway. He's willing to throw his campaign away for a job in the White House. He wants something in the healthcare division, and they're concerned that that's a bad idea because he's anti-vaccine. I don't have a problem with that, but it's interesting that that's the main talking point that everybody's concerned with. Nature Nerd reminds us about Margaret Thatcher in the Falkland Islands when Argentina invaded them. Yeah, that's true. I'll give her that. But I mean, is that something that any leadership would have done? But anyway, back to the point. He's willing to. I mean, that's really Kennedy showing his true colors. He's a 100% born and bred politician, which is why I don't trust him. People have asked me. Well, they don't keep asking me, but they've asked me several times about whether or not I think he's a good candidate. I don't believe so. I don't trust him. I think politics is all he cares about. He cares about maintaining the legacy. I like that he doesn't like vaccines, but the only reason that he doesn't is because a vaccination is why he can't speak properly. A vaccination caused permanent damage to his body. Otherwise, he would be waving that flag. He'd be on the bandwagon doing exactly what the pharmaceutical puppet masters tell him to do if it didn't hurt him. If it didn't hurt him. So there you are. That's a personal vendetta. Everything else with him is black people in poverty and C virus. And it's like, you don't like vaccinations, don't talk about the C virus. Lantern of Liberty says the new trend is that presidents appoint czars to circumvent Senate confirmation. Yeah. How do we get around that? Well, we'll find a job for you that you don't have to sit in front of a panel and explain yourself. That's what we'll do. And yeah, he met Trump face to face, but really, aside from any possible political issues or optics, I think the real problem is that he's been on the Trump bashing bandwagon in the past, and Trump and his team probably said, yeah, do we really want to work with this guy? Or are we going to end up with another Pence? The hell with him. Bye, Kennedy. So long. Go back to snake charming. Go back to snake charming. As we shift around, we talked about Newsom a little bit, so we may as well jump back to something that's going on in California. Daily Mail article, and I have this conspiracy theory that the lawmakers in California are deliberately destroying that state. They're deliberately destroying that state. Okay. But there's a setback now. Daily Mail. Billionaires wanting to build their utopian cities in California are forced to back down. Something's gone wrong, basically. A Silicon Valley-backed initiative to build a green city for up to 400,000 people on farmland that they finagled from farmers because those farmers lost all their money. We read those articles a couple of months back. After they paid for that land, they took those farmers to court and got their money. And now those farmers are screwed. Just saying. In the San Francisco Bay Area has been put on hold in an embarrassing reversal. The city would have been built from scratch on land 60 miles north of San Francisco, which is currently rolling prairie. But the tech billionaires say the entire timeline, which would have seen the city up and running within 10 years, was unrealistic. The California Forever campaign was going to feature on this November's ballot, but a Solano County report, or Solano, released last week raised questions about the project and concluded that despite the backing of billionaires, it may not be financially feasible. While the need for more affordable housing and good-paying jobs has merit, I'm so sick of hearing about affordable housing and good-paying jobs. It's another scam. The timing has been unrealistic. Mitch Mashburn, chair of the county's board of supervisors, explains, noting how without an environmental review, the project was a mistake. This politicized the entire project, made it difficult for us and our staff to work with them, and forced everyone in our community to take sides. This November's ballot would have asked voters to allow urban development on 27 square miles of land between Travis Air Force Base and the Sacramento River Delta city of Rio Vista, currently zoned for agriculture. The land use change is necessary to build the homes, jobs, and walkable downtown proposed by Jan Schramek, a former Goldman Sachs trader who heads up the California Forever. But the group has now suddenly decided that it will follow the normal county's process for zoning changes for the swath of land that is proposed for development. The group will fund a full environmental impact review and reimburse the county for staff time and consultants' works relating to the venture. So basically, they didn't grease the right palms for rezoning, so the project has been walked back. And now they're going to have to wait another year or two to get started. That's what's going on. And Tuck wants them to build mega cities on mega faults. Well, it's agricultural farmland, which has to be rezoned, which is ridiculous anyways. You can't just build anywhere. You got to pay to get it rezoned. And Flukeman says if he's anti-vax because it damaged his body, that made him rethink the possible dangers is a good start, but only if he actually cares about people's well-being. Exactly. Or is it just a personal vendetta, which is what I suggested. And Jane says California wants to build a train along the coast of California as well. But yeah, they if I were to take a guess, I'd say they didn't grease the right palms to get this forced through as quickly as they wanted for the rezoning of the farmland that they huckstered people out of. They cheated those people because those people had to give the money back. Hundreds of farmers that lost everything, lost their legacy, figured if we're going to have to sell, we may as well get the most we can out of it. And then they were sued in court claiming that, oh, well, they got together and drove the price up, which is what anybody with land would do. And they lost their money. Lantern says they were a Californian for 22 years and they escaped last year. It can't be made into America again. That's a shame. And Flukeman says Logan's Run. Yeah, the original Logan's Run, 1976, with Michael York. He was a good actor. He also played John the Baptist in the Jesus of Nazareth made-for-TV miniseries. You want to see a good John the Baptist. I think he must have screamed the entire time. But anyways, They didn't pay people off quickly enough, and now there's a delay. That's what it looks like to me. But they'll get it done eventually. They got all the land. They got money back, or most of it. California is in ruins. California's in ruins. There's almost nothing left. But what are you going to do, folks? Let me see if I can pause this. I got something here I wanted to show. Something here I wanted to share to for those of you who are worried about global warming. Here we go. It keeps changing. Hold on a second. I want to share something here really quickly here. I want to share this. This is from like the 1980s, and this is warning about global warming. And this is a news clip that I'm about to share. It's a news clip I'm about to share predicting Florida being underwater by now.
Along with low-lying areas all over the world.
For years, scientists have theorized about the dangers of the so-called greenhouse effect, the warming of the Earth's atmosphere due to the burning of coal and oil. And in recent months, as David Culhane reports, research has uncovered facts to support that theory.
Scientists claim that the temperature of the Earth's atmosphere has been rising over the past 100 years, that the great sheets of pack ice in Antarctica are melting at a much more rapid rate than previously.
Sound familiar?
And finally, that the sea level has been rising with increasing swiftness over the past 40 years. If these scientists are correct, about 25% of Florida would be flooded, along with low-lying areas all over the world.
Okay. Now, does Florida currently look like that? Because according to this article, this is what Florida was going to look like in 20 years because of the greenhouse effect. This news article is from 1982. That's 42 years ago. Does Florida look like that? Just asking. Just asking. Jericho says, I don't think we're worried about global warming any more than we are about what the heck the president is. Yeah, but I just wanted to make the point that they've been pounding this into us for decades. It was greenhouse gases. It was the ozone layer. It was, oh my God, it was global warming. Name it. Name it. It was pollution.
Climate changes could produce widespread disruption of agriculture. The American farm belt might be too dry, and the wheat and corn crops would have to move to Canada. Scientists blame the odorless, colorless carbon dioxide gas for these potentially dangerous changes around the planet. If these scientists are correct, about 25% of Florida would be flooded, along with low-lying areas.
So, yeah, we'd have to move all our crops to Canada. I love that part. That is 42 years old. I think that was an NBC News talking about greenhouse gases, warning about greenhouse gases causing climate change. You heard him say it, that would flood the entire world because the polar ice caps were melting as a result. And this is why I'll probably get in trouble for showing this. When I talk about stuff like this, they don't like it. But their prediction was that in 20 years, that's what the coastline of Florida would look like as a result of greenhouse gases and the warming of the earth. Okay? Does Florida look like that? It's been longer than 20 years. Seriously. And Lantern says, I wish I could paste a picture here. It shows the temperatures for 400,000, years ago. We're not off the normal variation at all. No. And the Earth goes through cycles anyways. Jericho says it was cow farts, then coffee. It's like they're running out of things to brainwash us with. And Jane says Florida does not look like that, but Florida has too many pythons. Okay. Morton says Florida only looks like that if you're on LSD. And Tuck says wind and solar farms are widespread threats to agriculture. They are, actually. I can agree with that. I can agree with that. But it's important for people to see stuff like this because they sit there. I mean, look at all these climate activists now losing their shit because they're like, oh, you're destroying the world. All these stop oil people and everybody else and screaming that you stole my childhood. You stole my childhood. No, Greta, you sold it, sweetheart. You sold your childhood. It's not the same thing. And you were well paid for it, too, so shut up. Okay? Hang that up. 42 years later, Florida hasn't changed the capital.
All over the world.
For years, scientists have theorized about the dangers of the so-called greenhouse effect, the warming of the Earth's atmosphere.
And remember, greenhouse effect was before ozone layer, right? The greenhouse effect, ozone layer, and then something else.
Due to the burning of coal and oil. And in recent months, as David Culhane reports, research has uncovered facts to support that theory.
Yeah, you'll always find facts to support that theory. You can always find a scientist. I told you there's three kinds of scientists. We've talked about this before, right? There's the scientist who says, yes, that's true. The scientist who says, no, that isn't. And then there's another one in the middle that says, well, how much research funding can I get? And I'll tell you which one you want to hear. That's the one that goes right in the middle. And it's easy to find. You'll always find a scientist who will tell you what you want to hear. Tuck says he's been going to the same beaches for decades. 0 sea level rise. And Monkey says, weirdly enough, we would only worry if Earth moved closer to the sun. Yeah, it would have to be something heavenly body related, like if the moon's orbit were altered somehow, closer or further away, would cause disastrous results. It could cause global catastrophes if it was closer or further away. Yeah, because the gravities affect each other. You know, there's things like that to consider. There's things like that to consider, but it goes on and on. All of these things just kind of faded away. People didn't buy it, and they gave up. They gave up on it. Greenhouse gases, no one cared. It's gone. It's gone away now. Ozone layer, no one cared. It's gone. It's gone away now. Somebody suggested in the comments section once, like a year ago when we were talking about this very same subject, that the reason that the ozone layer sealed up is because of less coal being burned. And I'm like, you know, and I actually went and I researched it, and I brought it up the next day on the very next live stream, that coal usage has increased since 1980 by 28% globally, all countries. So no, we're not using less coal, we're using more. We're using more. Lantern says, be nice to the scientists. If they don't agree, they don't get grants. No kidding. No kidding. And Lantern says, be nice. Oh, I read that. I opened it, popped up the wrong one. Here we go. Monkey says, near to that of where Venus is, but then we're outside the zone of Goldilocks zone. I think your wording is out of position. Jane says, facts to support the theory. I like the scientific theories. Good points. You got a brain. I try. I try. But that's how that works. You can always find a scientist who agree or disagree. I've used smoking as an example. For decades, doctors even recommended smoking. That's where you get menthol cigarettes from. My mother was prescribed, well, not prescribed because it wasn't a prescription, but recommended to use menthol cigarettes for her health. That's how she got hooked on Cool 100s. She used to smoke Cool 100s with a filter. But there you are. There you are. And Nature Nerd says Clinton lost the Panama Canal But yeah, China's running it now, isn't it? Which was part of the U.S. for 100 years. Ronald Reagan was all about keeping it. Good for the U.S. to control one of the biggest shipping routes. And that is why there are Iranian warships in the Gulf of Mexico. And they've been there for like 2 years. And the White House covered it up all the way until there was a whistleblower who revealed it a couple of months ago. And we read the article on it. And since the whistleblower revealed it, now the White House admitted it. Okay, yeah, there are Iranian warships have been out there for a minute. They got through the Panama Canal. That's why they're sitting there. Why are Iranian warships sitting in the Gulf of Mexico? That should never have been allowed to happen. That should never have been allowed to happen. Fluke Man says the movie Aaron Brockovich showed the doctors were paid to keep their mouths shut and the locals had cancer. I know it's a movie, but don't be surprised if it happens in real life. I'm sure it does. Oh, okay. Monkey says basically if Earth leaves the Goldilocks zone, the range where life can flourish, life would mostly be extinct. And then you get those effects. Yeah, okay. That makes more sense. The way I read it, it didn't sound right. It didn't sound right. But yeah, that happens all the time. Again, you can always find doctors or scientists to back up whatever you claim. It's like the whole big fight between the sugar industry and the corn syrup industry back in the early 70s. And the sugar industry was saying corn syrup is really bad for you. And all their experts and scientists said that, yeah, too much corn syrup is worse for you than sugar. And then all of the people in corn syrup were saying, oh, no, it's the sugar that's bad for you. Corn syrup is fine. And you can track, and I did a college paper on it, you can track the rise of obesity in America coincides directly with the introduction of corn syrup into our food chain. So right from when it started, which I think was 1971, 1972, I'm trying to remember. That's obesity rose right alongside of that with the introduction of corn syrup into everybody's diet. The more it was incorporated into our food. And now corn syrup or high fructose corn syrup or corn starch is in every damn thing we eat almost. Well, packaged foods anyways. If you go and you buy foods and you read the labels, I mean, a can of soup, it's got freaking high fructose corn syrup in it. What the hell? They put it in freaking everything. They put it in everything as a filler or as a sweetener. And it's no good. It's not good for you to eat that much of the corn syrup. But no one will address it. Even today, no one will address it. But look at the results. Now we have an obesity crisis, not just in America, but all through the Western world. And it's the food. It's the food, a drastic change. It's not as bad in Europe, but they still have those problems. America, it's worse for some reason. America, it's worse. But in Europe, it's creeping in too, and it has been for quite a while, unfortunately. As we're getting close to the end there. Daniel is still here. Daniel is still back there, as is Granny Smith, sleeping on her fish, since apparently it's hers and no one else can have it. There she is. And, oh, he left. I thought Monkey was still sitting behind me, but apparently he took off. But with that, we will go ahead and start wrapping things up. Again, thank you for the gift, Jane. At least Granny Smith enjoys it. And thanks also to Rodney for making a donation to the channel today. Thank you, everyone else who was able to join us here this afternoon. Well, it's afternoon where I am anyways. Hope you got something out of the conversation. And naturally,